Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before I present my material, I would like to express my gratitude to the committee in Thailand Nursing and Midwifery Council for inviting me to be one of the speaker in the wonderful event in this webinar on in conference, which is has titled the second International Nursing Conference with the topic of a future nursing research and innovation for a sustainable global health. And my name is Sumarno Subrata, and I was an alumnus of Ramadipuri School of Nursing, Faculty of Medicine, Ramadipuri Hospital, Michael University in 2016 and 2020. And also I have graduated from the alumnus of PhD scholarship from the Ministry of Finance, Republic of Indonesia, in a doctoral program abroad 2016 and 2020. And also I served as a nursing lecturer in Universitas Muhammadiyah Mangli, Indonesia, and also editor-in-chief in Journal of Holistic Nursing Science, Index in Scopus, and also in EBSCO, and also served as a reviewer in many reputable international health journals with more than 265 articles complete in review. So in this opportunity, I would like to present about the ethical consideration of emerging nursing research as the topic has been requested by the committee. And looking at this graph, we can conclude that the nursing research project have increased significant from the 2010 until 2016 or 19, followed by slight decline in 2019. This indicated the researchers are very enthusiastic and about addressing clinical problems and also innovating in field of nursing. So in other words, we can say that the spirit of conducting research increased from the 2010 until 2018 or 2019 as presented in the study. Then if I look in the study, which is conducted by Sidletki and Albert in 2020, they say that since May 2004, when the one-person department was converted to the program, there have been a total of 732 nursing research initiated, and as of this, in 132 are currently active research, and 328 have been complete, and 272 have been abandoned for some particular reason. And when viewing the active and complete project by years and including the number of nurse scientists available, we can see that the fluctuation of the project over time follow nursing scientist availability. And this picture reflecting the importance of the nurse scientist support in achieving research outcome, and also the gray bar reflect the active research, and the black bar reflect the complete study, and so the red line reflect the nurse sciences, which is increase in some years and decrease in some years. With this is raise our concern because the student on some researcher do a research very productive, and some researcher they decrease the productivity of conducting the research. And if you can see the picture still in the same study by Sidlecki and also Albert in 2020, and they present about the project which is conducted in some hospital since 2004 until 2018, which is some years in the increase about the burden project, and some years the increase in the complete project. So this comparison, we can conclude that the study is going growth has a good growth, and also have some progress in a very good ways. And if we look at the imaging research around the imaging nursing research, we can say that ethical and research or honesty is very important in nursing ethics. So the high number of research projects must be accompanied by the implementation of the research ethics. And one of these very important is honesty. Honesty is this kind of is a fundamental of the research, and referring to the truthfulness and also transparency in reporting the finding and the method and the data analysis, so involve accurately representing the research process. So, and any disclosing any potential bias or conflict of interest and avoiding fabrication, falsification, and also plagiarism. This the third point. The third aspect, such as fabrication and falsification and also plagiarism, is a very dangerous behavior in for researchers. So I am as an editor in journal, very pay close attention to the fabrication and also falsification and also plagiarism. So I always check everything paper that's happened to my journal and make sure that that paper doesn't have fabrication or falsification also plagiarisms. So in many example, researchers should truthfully report the data, and even if the results are unexpected or contradict with the hypothesis. An example of the honesty is research is when a scientist acknowledge the limitation of the study and report unexpected finding rather than manipulating the data to fit their expected outcome, meaning that honesty is very important in it as an ethic in research. So in my opinion, every researcher should use the honesty as a guidance in conducting research. In some study, we can say that the ethics committee should have a structure and roles and also issues, which is they should, evaluate all the principles in research such as autonomy, justice, beneficence, non-obligation, and confidentiality, honesty. And the sixth principle should be evaluated when they review of papers or when conducting research. And in some context, the composition of the committee should have 5 or 7 members, which is chairman and laypersons, member secretary, and also others. So all the person included in this committee should have expert in a field, expert in nursing, expert in research methodology, and expert in research, so they can evaluate any papers, evaluate any research that submitted in a journal. And to do this should have this review research protocol, review the protocol modification, and monitor adverse events on advancement of research. So the 4 points should be evaluated when the committee receives some submission for this ethics or approval ethics. And in the third picture, the third point which is important is the review process. This process should have many stage here. We should evaluate the research question, research design, background, rationale, and for safety for the patient, and so the aims, objective, and the clarity of the process, and so the risk and benefit analysis, and equitable to distribution of the subject, and informed consent, and also the privacy and confidentiality. And the process should be conducted in very detailed manner. So every committee should understand about its process, so they can make a decision whether the paper with the submission should be revised or rejected, depend on the issue they found during the submission. And if we connect to the as a nursing science, we are very know and understand and familiar about the nursing method paradigm, which include person and nursing, health, and environment. The 4 parameters reflect the need of nursing care in every setting, whether in hospital or even in the community. So when we conduct a research and pay close attention to the nursing method paradigm, we should uh, also consider about the ethics what appropriate in each paradigm. For example, in person, we should understand which is the best ethic to the person, justice and beneficent, respect for the person, and everything that related to the person. So nursing as well, and also the health and environment. So I think the ethics Bellman principle or ethical principle in research is closely related with the nursing method paradigm. And I think every nursing researcher should understand the connection between the ethical principle, ethical consideration before they do a research in human or in nursing, in a hospital, in a health and also environment. Yeah, I think this is very important for a nursing researcher to understand the description and the connection between the 2 concepts, nursing paradigm and the nursing ethics. Well, and this is the example for the ethical consideration for the subject research. So it means that before we conduct the research, we should ask about the research team about the 4 points. For example, how is informed consent of the subject obtained? Is the subject free at any time to withdraw? And can the privacy of individual be assured? And is there a deliberate review to determine that potential benefits outweigh the risk? So this is the 4 point that should be evaluate before we conduct the research. And I see this research in with published in some journal. It's good journal, but in 1973 in very old papers. But I think it's still relevant within the present day and present time, and when nursing research is going to be increased. The second is ethical consideration for the researcher, and it's really a lot at 9 point that we can understand and we can see. For example, what the are the indication that researchers are competent to conduct the study, are the ethical conflict are inherent in the process, problem, and also the methodology. Is the participation in the research project compatible with the ethics of research and of the nursing practice, and is the provision made for resolution of ethical conflict that may arise in the course of the research? And these 9 points should be answered by the researcher before they conduct a research. It's very, very complex, but I think if they can answer, they can, uh, uh, respond to the 9 question. I think the study would be a very good study, have some high contribution to the nursing research and can solve clinical problem in hospital and clinical settings. So we also pay close attention to the ethical consideration for the setting itself. Settings can be in a patient home, in a hospital, in a community, or even in some kind of nursing home and other settings. So 3 questions should be answered by the researcher before they conduct a research. For example, in the like of people and resource, is the project justifiable? And the second, in the right of the subject, the researcher, a service personnel be protected, and are the appropriate person fully informed of the potential ethical implications. So the 3 question it should be responded and should be answered by the researcher before they conduct research to ensure that the setting doesn't have any problem, any violation, and anything that they can hamper the study process. An ethical challenge in community-based research, I found and I conclude in some study, and for example, informed consent and privacy, researcher responsibility in vulnerable populations. For example, in community-based research, in many examples, involve individuals who are homeless or living with severe illness, which often presents a challenge in obtaining from consent. And I think this is very, very familiar in many researchers when a researcher do a research in homeless people or living severe illness, and it's very, very hard to ask the informed consent. Even we can find caregiver, but caregiver sometimes cannot give the informed consent because of the condition of the patient itself. So the caregiver consider about the patient privacy and home and anything. So I think this in many country, many place in study face this challenge. The second is about the stigma. Stigma is and can affect the ethical challenge, can affect ethical consideration in study. For example, if we conduct a study in a HIV population, it's very, very should be careful when we meet to the patient and explain the study procedure and anything. We can use some usual language that cannot make the person being angry or anything. So the stigma is very should be we should careful about the stigma. So in those with mental health condition or it's it is very, very challenging in some research. And then obtaining from consent can be difficult due to the factor like high risk impact on the study, low literacy of the respondent of population, and also communications issues among researcher and populations, and cognitive issues, and also patient time availability, health equity, and sustainability in low research setting. And the factor is very yes, I'm as a researcher, so sometimes I face this the difficulties when conduct research in community. And I think in my experience, the illiteracy is a very common in my population, because a lot of people in some people in Indonesia, they don't have uh, willingness to read in some information. So we need to give some information as much as possible. So when we would like to do a research in health education, so we should have a very detailed language, very detailed procedure, so they can understand and they can follow my research, and we can eliminate anything that can hamper the research process. And also, I would like to discuss about AI and digital health ethics in nursing research. And I think this point is today is very challenging, very concerning in many study, in many submission, in many publication AI, because AI in some discussion in some papers present the benefits, and some other papers say AI is give some less benefit to the person, to the patient, and many things. So I think the ethical implication in AI in healthcare should be should have five parameters. For example, privacy. An AI system often access sensitive patient data that requiring data security, and also bias and fairness. AI can include human prejudice and in digital system, and which would cause difference in diagnosis and treatment, and so accountability, and also transparency, and also human touch. So before we do our research in using AI, we should consider these five points, these five parameters, to make sure that our research does not have some any violation or can hamper the clinical care in hospital and even in community. So the important message from this slide is essential to ensure that AI does not compromise privacy, generate inappropriate language, lead to inappropriate assessment, and result in an accurate clinical nursing evaluation. This is a very important message that we can conclude from these slides. And discussing the publication ethics and as I mentioned, nursing research is very important for us as a reader, as editor or reviewer or researchers should understand what COP say about the ethics, and we can say the 10 core of the ethics in for that can read from COP. The first is study design and ethical approval. It should have well justified, well planned, appropriately designed, and the analysis appropriately analyzed and clear, and there is no, fabrication and anything that can hamper and can lead to bias to the finding. And authorship well known and expert in the field and responsible. So everything that related with authorship should well known in expert. They have some expert in the field. If because I have some experience when I receive some paper from another country, some country, and the group of the people, the group of the person is discussed about the nursing management and nursing care. But when I look and when I try to search the name in some database, they doesn't have any experience, and then in the topic, even they have some different profession, different profession. So they read something in nursing, but the profession of the author is not a nurse. They some kind of economic analysis or something, which is not expert in the field. So when I read the paper, so I found many something that's not familiar in nursing. So I decided to reject the manuscript because the authorship is not expert in the field, and they are not well known in some topic. The fourth is conflict of interest. It should be stated clearly and declared in the end of the paper. So if we do the research, in many publications need some the statement of declaration of the conflict of interest, and the peer review should be transparent and understandable, and some the review should be an substantial review. So we should I usually cover the review in each section of the paper, so the title and the abstract and introduction and method and so on until the reference. So I always give the comment in each section of this, part of the manuscript, so the editor can decide whether the paper can be accepted or need revision or maybe a need a rejections. So when we ask the editor to review the paper, so we can review as detailed as possible to make the suggestion, or maybe we do some critics to the paper and make some comments and recommendations to the paper, and the editor can make decision based on our review. So the sixth is redundant publication should be avoided, meaning that, for example, we can do a submission in different journal, by the same in the same paper. So when one paper can submit to the five journal, I think this is not not good. I mean, it's not should be avoided by the researcher, because I have some many experience about this. Someone asked me to join in some manuscript with a publication, but in the next day I received many emails from journal that the manuscript have been submitted in many journals. So I send email to the people, and then I'm not joining this process, because the process is will violate the publication ethics, as mentioned in the code. The plagiarism and duties of editor, author, and reviewer should be learned and understood, and media relations and advertising. So this is the 10 course I think is very important for the researcher to do the research. And maybe the three last slide is this must visit website. This is redactionwatch.com, which I often read this in every day. In every day, they always publish some article that increase our concern about the publication, and many interesting information that we can learn from this website. This code. And as an editor, as a researcher, or we as a reviewer, we can read many guidance from the COP, and COP is very updated, and we can search anything about the publication ethics, that we can find many papers, many seminar, and many information that relate to the topic that we search. And the last one is International Committee of Medical Journal, and I think is also important for us as a editor in journal, or even a researcher, to understand about the process of the research. And this website also they have some recommendation, disclosure of interest, and anything that is very interesting paper, a very interesting writing that we can should learn about this website. Okay, I think that's my presentation. Thank you so much, and I hope all my presentation will have some benefits. We have some new perspective to the readers, and I'm looking forward to receive the question and discussion. And thank you so much.